The atmosphere outside the New York City courthouse is tense. Reporters and camera crews gather, their equipment poised to capture every development. Today, Luigi Mangione, the prime suspect in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, faces new federal charges. Helicopter blades churn the air as Mangione, escorted by a heavily armed FBI NYPD task force, arrives. The charges, as outlined in the unsealed federal complaint, are staggering: murder, stalking, and a slew of weapons violations. As Mangione is ushered into the courthouse, the weight of the charges hangs heavy. The potential consequences are severe. On one side, the prosecution, armed with evidence and determined to bring a killer to justice. On the other, Mangione and his defense team, facing an uphill battle against a mounting case. The eyes of the nation are now fixed on this courthouse, watching and waiting as the wheels of justice begin to turn. Following the murder of Brian Thompson, the man now at the center of this intricate case, Luigi Mangione, vanished. 5 days of intense searching ensued, a manhunt that stretched from the bustling streets of New York City to the quiet towns of Pennsylvania. Then, a break in the case. A tip from the San Francisco Police Department, based on security footage from a hostel, placed Mangione in their city. The footage showed a man matching Mangione's description, his appearance altered, attempting to blend in. Acting on this crucial information, law enforcement narrowed their search. Their focus shifted to Pennsylvania, where Mangione was ultimately apprehended at a McDonald's in Altoona. The arrest was swift, the result of coordinated efforts between local, state, and federal agencies. Found in Mangione's possession were items that painted a disturbing picture: a 9mm ghost gun, a suppressor designed to silence gunshots, and a collection of fake IDs. Extradition to New York City followed, with Mangione agreeing to face the charges against him. The federal charges against Luigi Mangione represent a significant escalation in the case. No longer is this solely a matter for the state of New York. The weight of the federal government is now fully behind the prosecution. The charges, as outlined in the complaint, are grave murder by firearm, stalking, and a series of weapons violations. Each charge carries its own set of legal ramifications, and together, they paint a picture of premeditation and malice. The most serious charge, murder by firearm, carries with it the potential for the death penalty. The prosecution will need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mangione not only committed the murder but also that it was premeditated and intentional, meeting the high bar for capital punishment. The stalking charge adds another layer of complexity to the case. It suggests that Thompson's murder was not a random act of violence but rather the culmination of a pattern of harassment and intimidation. The weapons violations stemming from the ghost gun and suppressor found in Mangione's possession further complicate his legal situation. The prosecution will likely use these charges to paint a picture of Mangione as an individual who was prepared to use violence and evade detection. The timeline of events in the Luigi Mangione case reads like a suspense novel, each chapter revealing new layers of intrigue and raising more questions than answers. It begins in November, weeks before Brian Thompson's murder, with a seemingly unrelated event. Luigi Mangione is reported missing by his mother. This detail, seemingly insignificant at the time, would later become a crucial piece of the puzzle. Days turn into weeks, and the case takes a tragic turn. On December 14th, Brian Thompson, the well-respected CEO of United Healthcare, is found dead, the victim of a targeted attack. The city mourns, the corporate world reels, and the search for his killer begins. Little did anyone know that these two seemingly unconnected events would soon be intertwined. The manhunt for Mangione intensifies, spanning multiple states and involving a collaborative effort between local, state, and federal agencies. On December 19th, Mangione is extradited back to New York City, where he faces a slew of federal charges, including murder, stalking, and weapons violations. The federal charges against Luigi Mangione have ignited a firestorm of debate and speculation among legal experts. The potential for the death penalty, a punishment reserved for the most heinous crimes, looms large over the proceedings. This is uncharted territory, says former federal prosecutor Judith Miller. The prosecution will need to present an ironclad case, demonstrating beyond a reasonable doubt that Mangione not only committed the murder but also that it was premeditated and deserving of the ultimate punishment. The stalking charge adds another layer of complexity. This suggests a pattern of behavior, a level of premeditation that goes beyond a crime of passion, notes criminal defense attorney Mark Thompson. The presence of the ghost gun and suppressor further complicates the case. These items speak to intent, says former FBI profiler Sarah Jones. The outcome of this trial will not only determine Luigi Mangione's fate, but also set a precedent for future cases involving similar charges and circumstances. The discovery of a ghost gun and suppressor in Luigi Mangione's possession has sent ripples of concern through law enforcement agencies nationwide. Ghost guns, untraceable firearms often assembled from kits purchased online, represent a growing threat to public safety. Their lack of serial numbers and readily available components make them incredibly difficult to track and regulate, creating a nightmare scenario for law enforcement officials tasked with keeping communities safe. The ease with which individuals can obtain these weapons is alarming, says Special Agent Michael Johnson of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, ATF. We're seeing a significant increase in their use in crimes, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to stay ahead of this trend. The presence of a suppressor, a device designed to muffle the sound of gunshots, further amplifies these concerns. Suppressors can make it more difficult for witnesses to identify the source of gunfire and can give perpetrators a tactical advantage in a shooting situation. The Mangione case highlights the urgent need for stricter legislation and enforcement efforts to combat the proliferation of ghost guns. As Luigi Mangione sits in a New York City jail cell facing a slew of federal charges, the investigation into the murder of Brian Thompson continues. Law enforcement officials are working tirelessly to piece together a complete picture of the events leading up to the tragedy, examining every shred of evidence, from financial records to digital footprints, in search of answers. This is far from over, says a source close to the investigation. We're leaving no stone unturned. We're determined to uncover the truth behind Mr. Thompson's murder and bring those responsible to justice. The coming weeks and months promise to be crucial in the case against Luigi Mangione. A grand jury will decide whether to indict him on the federal charges, a decision that could have far-reaching consequences. If indicted, Mangione will face a lengthy legal battle, one that will likely involve expert testimony, forensic evidence, and emotional pleas from both the prosecution and the defense. The pursuit of justice for Brian Thompson is far from over, and the outcome of the legal proceedings against Luigi Mangione will have a lasting impact on all involved.